Hello there and welcome to the Army BARB test. My name is Richard McMunn, and during this short presentation I'm going to provide you with lots of hints and tips on how to pass the British Army Recruit Battery Test. Now, the British Army Recruit Battery Test, or the BARB test as it is more commonly known, checks your ability to understand information and solve problems in your head. Okay, so you have to be good at solving problems in your head, and the reason why they want you to do that is because when you join the army, whether you join the Royal Engineers or the Parachute Regiment, you have to be able to carry out tasks in your head. You have to make decisions, you have to make them fast, and you have to be accurate in your decision making process. Now, although lots of people say that the Army BARB test is relatively simple to pass, that may be true in some aspects, but what is important is your ability to carry out simple tasks accurately. Okay, so let's face it, when you're in the army, if you make a simple mistake, then it can cost lives. Okay, you will have a big responsibility to work with equipment that is expensive and in some instances dangerous. So you have to be able to carry out accurate decision making in your head. Okay, the result is called, this is the result of the BARB test, is called your General Trainability Index. Okay, so it's how trainable you are as an individual. Okay, so it helps the army to match you with specific roles that you will be most suited to. So for example, if you were to join the army, or you want to join the army in a more technical role like one I've suggested, like the Royal Engineers, then you will need to gain a higher score. Lots of people say to me, Richard, what's the pass mark for the Army BARB test? Don't worry about the pass mark. What you should be focusing on is getting as high a score as possible. So don't worry about the score, what the pass mark is. Concentrate totally on getting as high a score as possible, because the higher the score you have, then the more jobs you will have to choose from. And let's face it, that's the position that we'd all like to be in. Yes, absolutely. Now, the BARB test is split into 5 different sections. There's a reasoning test, a letter checking test, a number distance test, an odd one out test, and a symbol rotation test. And I'll go through a couple of examples of these. Now, in the majority of cases, you'll be required to carry out the BARB test on a computer screen. And I must stress that before I come on to these samples, these are not exactly how they will look on the day. When you go to your test, you will get the opportunity to try out a sample question or a number of sample questions before you go on to the real thing. And there are a number of ways that you can prepare for the Army BARB test before you go there, which I'll talk about in a second, or at the end of this presentation. The Army say to you on their website, you don't need to prepare for the test. My personal view is you should prepare for the test, and you can prepare for it. You can improve your chance. And again, at the end of this presentation, I'll tell you how you can do that. So let's just recap. The Army BARB test consists of a check letters test, reasoning test, number distance test, symbol rotation test, and a selecting the odd one out test. And don't forget, the higher score that you get, the more career options you will have available to you. Now, the check letters test, this is what it may look like on the screen. You'll see there that there are rows of letters. Okay, there's no numbers involved. These numbers here at the bottom are for you to decide how many letters actually match in the top and bottom rows. Okay, so what your job would be is to go across each of these rows of letters and decide which ones, top and bottom, actually match. Okay, so let's do this in slow time. So the first column of letters, you've got A at the top in a capital and E at the bottom. Do they match? No, they do not. Okay, so that's 0. That they don't match. In the second row, you've got J, which is a capital, and also J, which is a lowercase j. They do match. Okay, and I must stress, it doesn't matter whether they're capitals or lowercase. So long as they're the same letter, they will match. So that actually gives us one set of letters that match. Next one, if we go to the third row, you've got a capital K and a lowercase k. Again, they match. So far we've got 2 on there that match. And the final one, we've got a 0 and a U. Now, they look relatively similar. I know they're not the same letters, but this is how you have to be careful, because they do look slightly similar. Therefore, some people will be rushing through the test and they'll say, yes, these are the same. But in fact, they're not. Okay, so we've only got the middle 2 rows that are the same. Therefore, we would hit or circle the number 2 to say that there are 2 sets of letters that actually match. Okay, so it's your ability to check these quickly and accurately. And don't worry about what people say to you. Oh yeah, it's a really easy test, it's dead easy to pass. Remember, yes, you have to work quickly, but it's the accuracy of the number of questions that you take or that you attempt which is crucial. Because anybody could just go through this and actually hit, oh yeah, we'll guess there's one there, there's three there. That's no good, because if you're making lots of mistakes, then that is indicative of how you may perform in a real life scenario. Let's have a look at another one. Okay, the first row, capital U, lowercase u, yes, they match. That's one. An I, capital I, and a capital R, they do not match. Capital N and a lowercase n, yes, they do match. That's two. And finally, capital M, lowercase m, yes, they match as well. Now, we would then circle or hit the three, because there's three on there that actually match. So we're checking the letters as we progress. Now you'll see that the examples I've provided you with have been capitals and lowercase. That doesn't necessarily mean how they'll appear on the screen. You could get two lowercase, you could get two capitals. You might not get any at all in the section. Now what you should do is look out for letters that are similar. This can trip you up. So a letter Q and a letter O, or a G and a Q can look the same, and also a P and a Q. So look out for those. They're not the same, and therefore you wouldn't tick them as being the same ones. Okay, the reasoning test, the next part. And don't forget, these don't come in this particular order. I'm just going through these questions just to give you an idea of what they're like. Let's have a look at a sample question, a reasoning test. So your ability to reason information. So we've got a statement here. Richard is taller than Stephen, who is shorter. Again, a simple statement, quite easy to answer, but when you're under pressure and you're doing these in quick speed, you can see how easy it is to make a mistake, and we don't want to be making mistakes. So Richard is taller than Stephen, who is shorter. The answer in this case will be Stephen, as the statement suggests that Richard is taller than Stephen, therefore Stephen is the shorter of the two. Again, it's very simple to answer, but trust me, when you're doing these quickly, then it's very easy to trip up and make a mistake, so don't forget to focus on accuracy. So look at another one. Question 2. Mark is not as wealthy as Jane, who has less money. The statement suggests that Mark is not as wealthy as Jane, therefore suggesting that Jane has more money. So Mark therefore has less money and is not as wealthy as Jane. Okay? The number distance test. Now this, I think this is quite a tricky one. During the BARB test, you will have to sit what is called a distance number test. This test requires you to analyse three numbers and decide which one of the three fits certain criteria. For example, you may find three numbers appear on your computer screen as follows. So we've got 7, 10 and 4 in ascending order. The numbers can appear in any order and will not necessarily increase in value as I have provided you there on the screen. You then have to analyse the numbers and decide which one is the largest number and which one is the smallest number. Okay, so in this case, 14 is the greater number, 7 is the lower. This then leaves you with the number 10. Okay, and once you've decided which number remains, in this case it's the number 10, you then have to decide which is the furthest away from that number, from the number 10, i.e. the distance number test. So in this case, the largest is 14, the smallest is 7. That leaves us with 10 in the middle. And don't forget, it won't always be in the middle. Which one is the furthest away from number 10? Well, we know that 7 is 3 away from 10 and 14 is 4 away from 10. Therefore, 14 is the number that we would select on the question. Let's have a look at this one. Okay, so which one is the largest number? 9. Which one is the smallest? 3. That leaves us with 7. 7 in the middle again. Don't forget, won't always be in the middle. And then we will work out which one is the furthest away from that middle number. 9 is 2 away from 7. 3 is 4 away from 7. Therefore, the distance number is 3. And that would be our answer. Okay, moving on to the symbol rotation test. Now, you'll be provided with symbols like this. Okay, so these are letter F, and they can be in any... They can be horizontal, vertical, lying down, upside down. And you have to decide by rotating the letter whether they actually match. Okay, so if we rotate this top letter on the first column there, and we rotate it clockwise going round, you'll see that that does match the bottom one. So that's what we're trying to do, is to see if they match up. So that matches, so that's 1. If we look at the one again here next to it, that is identical to that one, and if we rotate the top F, eventually it will come to match and fit the bottom one. So that's 2. If you look at this one on the third column here, it doesn't matter how much we rotate it, it won't match the bottom one, and therefore that isn't matching. So there are only 2 symbols or 2 rows of symbols that match, and therefore we would select the number 2 option. Let's have a look at question 2. Now the top and the bottom there are actually identical, so we could rotate the top one 360 degrees all the way around and it will match the bottom, so that's 1. Again with the second one, even though it's facing the wrong way, the letter F, if we rotate it, then we know that that will eventually match the bottom one, therefore that is 2 that match. And again for the third one, because they're the same, we could rotate the top or the bottom 360 degrees and they would match, and therefore we would select number 3. So that's a symbol rotation test. The selecting the odd one out test, as it says, that's the test, is selecting the odd one out from a series of words. So let's have a look at sample question 1. Which of the following is the odd one out? And they've given us ball, footballer and tree. So all you have to do is to decide out of the 3 is not relevant to the other 2. So we know that a footballer kicks a ball, therefore tree is the odd one out. It is that simple. Okay, let's have a look at 2 more questions. Bark, sun and tree. Well, we know that bark grows on a tree, therefore sun is the odd one out. Question 2. Peanut, mechanic, spanner. We know that a mechanic works with a spanner, therefore peanut is the odd one out. And I've got to stress, guys, that yes, you know, these are relatively simple to pass, but don't forget, when you're working at speed, make sure that you go for accuracy, because that's what the Army are looking for. Don't forget what I said right at the beginning of this presentation, how important it is to be accurate, because when you make simple mistakes, it can affect lives. Okay, and have that focus. Okay, so that just gives you a bit of an insight into the Army BARB test. If you go to www.careervids.com, you'll be able to find a load more online BARB test questions, and I, Richard McMahon, have created an Army BARB testing book that you can find either at CareerVids or on Amazon. Okay, and it's a comprehensive book. If you type into amazon.co.uk Armed Forces Tests by Richard McMahon, then you'll find my fantastic best-selling book which contains loads of BARB tests. Good luck with your test, guys, and I hope you do get a really high score on the BARB test and have a fantastic career in the Army. Thank you very much for watching.